Want to make your SNES Classic Edition controller wireless? I'll show you how. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Snes Hacks.
Hey guys, welcome back to Harrison Hacks. Today I'm going to be showing you the 8Bitdo mod kit for your SNES Classic Edition controller. Basically what this kit does is replaces your PCB and turns your controller into a Bluetooth controller. So it'll be wireless, which is awesome. It's going to work on Windows, Macs, Android. It's going to work on your NES Classic. Anything Bluetooth, it's going to work. For it to work on your SNES Classic or your NES Classic, you are going to need a retro receiver, which 8Bitdo also sells, which is pretty cool. And one thing I've had for such a long time and I'm a huge fan of is actual 8Bitdo Bluetooth controller. This is the SN30. And to be honest, this controller is the closest thing to this I have ever found, ever. D-pad's great, buttons feel great. Everything feels so nice. This feels like pretty much as if it was a Nintendo product. So now I'm going to have this one, and I'm also going to have the official Super Nintendo one that's going to be Bluetooth. So let's pop the box open. Inside we get a little instruction card, and basically it says, please handle with care. We are not responsible for any damage caused in use. Step 1, remove the 5 screws on the back. Step 2, put your original PCB into the anti-static bag, and they provide the anti-static bag with their PCB here. Step 3, put in the 8Bitdo PCB and line up your little rubber charging port. And step 4, replace the screws. And then on the flip side, it just kind of tells you how to connect it to your Switch, to your Android, to Windows, to Mac, to the 8-bit retro receivers. So pretty cool. The battery basically gives you 10 hours of playtime, rechargeable via USB cable with 30-minute charge time. So pretty solid. That's pretty good. So what I'm going to do now is open up the package. So pop it open. And I've got a star screwdriver or Phillips screwdriver, the board itself, and the small little charging cable that we're going to use to charge it up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all the screws out of here. I'm not going to make you guys watch me do that, and when I'm ready we will replace the PCB inside of the controller and make this bad boy a Bluetooth controller. I'll be right back. Okay, so I've got all the screws out of my controller, and I've taken the 8Bitdo PCB board out. So if you guys watched my previous video, I did show you the NES Classic PCB from 8Bitdo, so I'll link to that in the top right hand corner of your screen. This one's a little bit more in depth as far as the L and R buttons, so you can see if I turn it around, they're just connected by wires, and they're going to have to place up in the controller, as well as we have to make sure we line up our charging port to where the cable comes out right now. So I'm going to follow the steps that they had mentioned and take off the back of the controller. So for me, that removed two things. The R button, which I will have to place back in here. So just be careful when doing this. The way I'm going to lift mine out is carefully undo this wire wrapped around the pins and lift up on the PCB, and there we go. So just make sure you're very careful with that when you're removing it, and then also put it into the static bag that we removed our 8Bitdo SNES Classic mod kit PCB from. So I'm just going to tuck this into this bag real quick. There we go. Okay, so the rubber for my button has come loose, so I'll tuck that in there. I believe I have to like this. Yeah, this one's a little more tricky. There's a few extra parts and compared to the NES version, but I don't think it's going to be that difficult. So there we go. We're in and we're in. So now what we need to do is flip our PCB upside down so the battery is looking at us. And as I set this in, I'm just going to set it down nice and gentle and try and place the L and R buttons in the right spot. So it's a little tricky. Got one, got two. Now I need to get that PCB into place as well. So there we go. The PCB's in place. I'm going to do my L button here. Oh, I see. So the rubber is stopping me. Yes, this one's far trickier than the NES one. That's for sure. So that's in. Now replace my L button. Make sure that's in correctly. There we go. And the charging port, we want to be very careful with the ribbon cable. Place that in there. And for me to put the controller back together, I think putting the top first makes the most sense. So let's see. And well, this is pretty gummed up from my little guy. So let's see where we're at. Something's stopping me here. Everything looks to be in place. I don't mean to carry this video on. I like to make sure I'm doing everything correctly without squishing anything. So everything looks correct now. I do have to put some screws in there. And there's our charging port at the top. And we now have a wireless SNES Classic Edition controller, official Nintendo with an 8Bitdo mod kit. So I'm going to put the screws in the back and I'll come back to you in 1 second. Okay, so all the screws went back together nice and easy. As I mentioned, this thing is really cool. So I've turned it on. If you can see it flashing blue there. But this is amazing because now it's all wireless. I've got a Bluetooth controller to use with my SNES Classic, my NES Classic, with the use of my retro receiver. I can use this on my Android phone, which I'm recording with now. I can use it on my PC, which is sweet. I can use it with a Raspberry Pi, so Retro Pi. This is going to work wonderfully. Just so many options with these. It's such a great kit. So stay tuned for a future video. I'm going to put a minimum of 20 hours worth of gameplay into this controller PCB, and then I will let you guys know if everything's functioning correctly as far as input lag and anything like that. So make sure you stay tuned for that video. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell, and that way every time I post a video you'll get a notification. So as usual, really appreciate you guys watching and have a good day.